Hey you, welcome back to my channel. I am Tefera Nava for those who don't know, and Happy New Year. Happy 2022. I can't believe it's 2022 already. I know probably a lot of people have been saying that, but it just seemed like, I swear I just started November of 2021 and now January of 2022 is almost over already. This month seems like it's moving a little fast. I think usually it's like January, February, maybe March seems so slow, and then the rest of the year seems to start speeding up for some reason. But to me, January has been going by pretty fast. So yeah, I have filmed 2 videos already, but I really wanted this one to go up first, mainly because it's about PTSD, internal trauma, anxiety, mental health. Also my natural hair journey. It's all combined and worked together and have been tethered together. And yeah, I got a lot of comments, especially on my Instagram, about it. So I want to kind of take you through that period, that cycle through my life. So that's what this video is going to be specific on. I think I'm going to probably name it a little different because I'm going to really talk about the mental, psychological, and nervous system when it comes to like PTSD, internal trauma, and anxiety. So yeah, I think that might seem like something very heavy as the first video that I am uploading for 2022, but I feel like if we balance ourselves and heal ourselves internally first, our year, the rest of our lives is going to get a lot better. It's definitely helped my life to be a lot more fuller and healthier, and thriving better, working from the inside out. Also, I'm going to drink with you guys. I don't think I've ever really had anything except for like a tea or a smoothie on this video with you guys. So here's a toast to Happy New Year to you guys for 2022. I can appreciate and enjoy a good red wine, so I'm drinking on some Cab right now. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. Okay, so just a small quick recap for those who don't know. I have a series, well, on my natural hair journey videos, I talk about why I started losing my hair, like in this area here of my hair. It's grown. It started in 2016. Basically, it's a combination of hormonal imbalance, and the real trigger that took the cake was basically internal trauma, stress, traumatic situation that set off a whole PTSD cycle for my body, and the way it manifested was through my hair, scalp, and other symptoms. So anyway, I talk about all of that. I will have those videos linked down below, so you can catch up. So if you want to have an understanding of what I'm talking about, as far as, because I'm going to be talking about treating the internal and a little bit of the hair, because again, these are things that are paired and connected and tethered. You can watch those videos linked down below first and then come back to this one, and you'll kind of understand something, some of the things that I'm explaining basically. So I just want to give a little bit of I guess definitions and a little bit of clinical medical definitions of some of the things I'm going to be talking about, just in case this is your first video and you haven't watched any of my previous ones. So yes, let's get started. PTSD is post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's basically when stress and fear is trapped in the body, and it can be done in cycles. So basically I talk about everybody has some form of like disappointment, trauma in their lives. the scale doesn't matter. We've all experienced some level of like disappointment, hurt, pain, trauma, be it psychological, physical, emotional. We all have dealt with that, be it from family, friends, workers, strangers. You could be in the military, you could be a doctor, you could be a cop, you could be a mother, you could be a teacher, you could be at the grocery store, you could be pumping your gas, you could be in a relationship. You know, we all can deal with those. And yeah, and sometimes they can be so traumatic for us that they come in waves and cycles. And sometimes if you pay attention to it and if you kind of keep track of it, you might notice it happens around a certain time of year or a day, certain time of day, meaning morning, noon, or night. And then if you think about what was going on in your life around that time, who you were involved with, what you were doing, etc., you could probably pinpoint of where it started. So that is what PTSD is. And so I also talk about triggering. Triggers basically forms from the flight or fight mode that our mind does. It's a protective mode, it's a defense mode that we go into when we are experiencing something traumatic for us to protect us. But the unpairing of triggers, by safely dealing with trauma, we can reprogram our minds. So triggers are anything that is associated with an object or an event, or it can be like person, meaning you could be triggered by males if you've had a lot of traumatic situations and they always seem to be men. Vice versa, if it's women, it could be animals. There are people who are triggered by actual objects. So it could be knives, forks, if you were ever attacked by a knife or fork. It could be a pencil. It could be sounds as well. So like a lot of people in the military, when they hear gunshots or explosions, cops, people who work in a lot of active and violent situations, certain sounds are triggering to them. And then if you've dealt with any emotional, psychological, physical abuse, hearing certain words, tones, loud speaking, yelling, or being grabbed or touched in a certain way can definitely be triggering. And when we're in that fight or flight mode, in that traumatic period, our minds, our psychological minds and our emotions pair those objects, those sounds, those things together, and it sets off a response in our body. So yeah, that's kind of like a mental psychological understanding if you don't know like what's happening. It can even be smells. You can smell something and it triggers stuff, and some things are positive. You know, you smell a certain thing and you think of home, you think of a boyfriend, a girlfriend, food, a vacation. So all of those are still kind of triggering things. Some of them are positive, but we're talking more on the quote unquote negative aspect of the spectrum with those things. And so how can it manifest in the body is what I'm about to go into a little bit next. Okay, so we know that flight or fight is a natural programmed, preset program for our bodies. We're in a threatening, traumatic situation. It's just how our body helps us, and our mind helps our body to protect ourselves, to survive. And then we also have that freeze, I forgot what it's called, but it's freeze time or freeze response, where sometimes you'd be like, how are you just standing there? I'm definitely one of those people that are like, why are you just standing there? But it is a psychological mental response that our body does when it's going through that process. But as far as how it can truly manifest in a negative way in our bodies, so let me talk about that part. Now, when we go through this post-traumatic flight or fight syndrome, we're supposed to go through whatever that response is. But there's a time where it starts to decompress and kind of flush, or as I like to say, flow through your body. And our natural process is that we are to return to a calm state. So you go through the adrenaline, the fear, the anger, the pain, whatever your body is dealing with during it. You're fighting, you're running away, you're frozen, whatever you're doing at that moment. But then there's a period where your body starts to go into the kind of recalm, rebalance stage, where you kind of go back into your natural state. Now, depending on where you are, it might take a long time for you to get to a place where you can truly allow your body to go through its natural process of that, of, you know, surging and then releasing and then like just flushing the system. But when you are not in that space, it can really cause even more damage to your system. And the nervous system is one of those greater things that is affected by a traumatic situation and PTSD. And it manifests in different ways, from weight loss, weight gain, losing hair. It could be sicknesses and diseases are literally formed from the toxic chemicals that are released, and the anger and the stress and the mental thoughts that is building up in our bodies. They're not released properly like they should be. And there are many reasons why that seems to happen. Okay, it says our majority of culture and teachings throughout the world is to suppress everything, and in return our bodies build up with not only the toxins of the environment, meaning the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the things that we drink, but also our body is filled with natural triggers of stress, heightened emotions, toxic thoughts, and trauma situations that are surging continuously through our body. And if you're around, unfortunately, people and situations that don't foster or help to nurture and cultivate a healthy processing of something traumatic, it gets worse for that individual. And our body literally remembers and holds on to that traumatic situation. It doesn't matter how big or small the person wants to gauge it, because two people can be in a car accident and they each can respond traumatically differently to the same car accident. So this is a very personal situation that someone is going through. It's subjective because it's that person, and you can't judge it. You know, one person can handle a car accident, quote unquote, fine, and the other one is very traumatized in a way where you can kind of see the residue effects on it. But they both have been affected. It just manifests in the body, in the personality, in the choices, and then in the lifestyle differently from individual to individual. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the nervous system. As I said, that one is really more of the anchor that can really manifest things for us. Okay, now our nervous system. It says our nervous system is the key in PTSD, or basically internal traumatic situations. Your nervous system doesn't function through thoughts. It functions through feelings, not just emotions, but also sensations that you're feeling in your body, like the pain, the cold, the heat, the tightness. You might feel tightness, you might feel fatigue, you might feel depressed, you might feel anxiety, anxiousness, frustration, etc. These are the things and sensations that your body actually feels when you're going through that trauma period, that PTSD. Anxiety and depression are just symptoms of that. That's all they are. They are forms of symptoms, sensations that your body is feeling. You're feeling anxiety, you're feeling depression, you're feeling anger, but you can also feel like real sensations, tingling, tightness, which is like inflammation and things like that, coldness, redness, hotness, These are things that I'll always have mentioned when I talk about my hair loss, that prior to that stage of my trauma period, I feel the sensation in my head, in my scalp, and through my body. It's just concentrated more from the shoulders up and then targeted in the area where my hair would fall out. So these are real things. Your nerves, your nerve endings, when they die off, that's why we feel numb. We say our nerves, we compress them, they fall into sleep, so we feel that tingling sensation. People feel phantom pains if they've been probably amputated in any kind of way or anything. But you can literally feel certain sensations when you're in your depression period, when you're going through that trauma cycle again. You can really feel hot sensations, cold sensations, swelling, all of those type of things going through your period of trauma cycle. So I just want to mention that, talk a little bit about that as I go forward in this series, dealing with my natural hair growth and just healing my body from the inside out. One more thing, and then we're gonna get into how I'm preparing myself for my PTSD period, my PTSD period. Still sipping on our celebratory wine for the new year. All right, the last thing I want to cover is basically avoidance and suppression and how it makes our trauma, PTSD, worse. Basically, it says by avoidance and suppression increases anxiety, depression, or any other type of sensation surrounding your trauma or PTSD. Okay, I mentioned before that our society as a whole, our culture as a whole, I think the world as a whole, we like to avoid, we like to suppress any type of trauma or issues that we might have mentally, psychologically, physically, and emotionally when it's something traumatic for an individual. And that is wrong, and it causes more damage, not only for the world as a whole and for us as people, but for that individual. And in return, our body has to find a way of releasing it, gathering it, dealing with it. If we're not able to go through the natural process that our body is already kind of preset and pre-programmed to do, going through that high adrenaline fight or flight mode and going through the decompressing stage of it and letting us really calm down. And then there's a period where our body, our kind of individual instincts of helping to nurture and heal ourselves, we're kind of driven to do so. It might be like we feel like I need to talk to somebody, I want to go on a vacation, I want to go swim, I want to eat healthy, I want to fast. It's usually we feel led to do certain things. I want to pray, I want to sleep for a couple of days. Those are some healthy things that our bodies feel led to do, we feel led to do to aid in that decompress, releasing that whole traumatic period. And sometimes we want to talk to some people, and when we don't have those positive people who are just an ear to listen or can just respect what we've been through and have empathy and sympathy for what we're going through, regardless if they can relate or understand or feel that they would respond differently, it doesn't help us. And this culture of not addressing certain things and dealing with it perpetuates the unhealthy cycle for mental health, psychological health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health, honestly. And it affects us. And the one way it shows up is in our individual bodies through actual sickness and disease. Sickness and disease. Disease is dis-ease in your body. Basically, it's a manifestation of of literal stress and anxiety and trauma in the body. And again, you're pairing an event or a situation added with the toxins of environment, what we eat, what we drink, what we deal with on a daily basis, and you add that to a traumatic situation. You have a combination for a potential bad thing for your health, your physical health. And it can also get to a point, as we know, with some PTSD situations, where it can affect everyone around you, your career, your work life, your relationships, your finances, where you live, how you look. It just can be a snowball effect if it's not addressed and dealt with and healed properly from the inside out. So that is some little like information medically and things like that, of like understanding what post-traumatic stress is, internal trauma, anxiety and depression, how our mind and our body is all connected, and everything you're feeling is linked, it is tethered, and you can't heal one without the other. You have to address them kind of simultaneously and get a beautiful balance to really truly heal yourself and overcome it. And it usually has to all boil down to a full lifestyle change. Usually, depending on how severe it is, you're probably going to have to do a whole lifestyle change. And in the long run, it's better for you anyway, because you learn how to deal with upsetting, distressing in those situations, traumatic situations, disappointment situations that come about. You have developed ways, rituals of how to deal with them, and you're becoming healthier. So now let's get into it. Let me talk about how I am preparing for my internal traumatic cycle period.